Hello everybody, and welcome back to a new build, a new refurbishment, and that is working on a Fokker DR1. I think the origins of this model now have been established by myself. I believe it's a Flair Baronette model that's been scaled up to 1/4 scale, and that in itself presents a number of challenges. Firstly, although it's been scaled up in size, I don't think adequate attention has been paid to the additional stresses that will occur in a model of this size. So I will be adding some additional strengthening to the structure to allow for that. I also want to make it a little bit more scale-like than the Flair Baronette is, and that will involve a number of modifications. However, it's my intention actually to do one bit at a time. I'm not going to do the whole airframe and then the whole covering and so on. I'm going to tackle one thing at a time from start to finish. So I'm beginning with the lower wings. They need the least alteration in my view in terms of both strengthening and making them more scale-like. So I'm going to begin with them, and I'll also go through a covering process that I'm going to use for this model, which I'll share with people who may not have seen it before. The first thing I've done, if you look back at the initial video, is I've stripped the covering off and I've removed the bulk of the residue paint using packing tape. You can see some hints of the orange that was originally underneath the painted finish that's come off on this packing tape. It's quite effective, and with a little bit rubbing down, you get what's left removed quite effectively. But the next thing I'm going to do to improve the scale appearance is I'm going to add some riblets between these ribs. I think it just adds to the look of the model, and I've made a little cardboard template which I've tried here, and it seems to fit nicely. So I'll cut those out of, I think it's going to be 3/16 balsa, or it might be 8, I'm not sure, and I'll double check. And I'll add a cap and strip over the top of each one, and I think that will generally improve the appearance. The other thing I've been doing is a lot of research into the building and flying of this model, and one of the things that many people have said is that the tip skids on the models need to be functional, because it will wobble around like a drunken duck down the runway, I think, and when it comes into land those skids are very useful. This model doesn't have them on. They would need to be added here, and I'm going to have a think about that, and we'll look at that in this video. And they also need to be strong enough to withstand the tips making contact with the ground. I've seen people fit scale ones and they're constantly repairing them, cutting, covering away, trying to make do from a rough and tumble landing. So I want to make them a little bit tougher than that. So we'll explore the possibilities of that as well. So the first thing is I'll get these riblets cut out, and then we'll start gluing them in. I've cut out the riblets now, and they're ready to glue in. I've marked on the centre location for each one, and I'm going to position them now, making sure they're square, and then I'm going to run some CA, as you can see. Really works well in situations like this, because otherwise you would have to glue them in, pin them down rather. So that's the first one, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, obviously, but I think it's a big improvement. And of course this will show up through the covering, and it's by no means a scale model, as I've repeated numerous times. It is a sports scale model, but I want it to look nice. Couple to go. No, 3 to go. Two more. And I've got the cap and strip ready, prepared. I'm not sure what thickness it is actually. It looks like 3mm perhaps, maybe a little bit less. Matches what's already been used for the main ribs. There we go. I hope you agree that that's a big improvement. I've already done the other side. There we go. I've cut the cap and strip, but I've got a feeling this will need to be soaked to get it to go around nicely. I'll do that and we'll get those added, and then that's that first part of the upscaling completed. I'm going to try actually adding the capping strip without soaking it. I'm simply going to use a more viscous glue, CA glue, add it on, and then I'm going to add some kicker, some activator, some kicker to the strip. You notice I'm putting it on in one. There's one piece like that. I think it's easier to cut it off once it's set and handle it than it is manipulating them as small short pieces. So we'll see if this works. That's the theory anyway. We'll see. Well, that's taken, so that's worked. Got to find a knife. There we go, the cap and strip completed. Get ready to do the next one. Do one more and then we'll call this part of the process completed for you to watch, and I'll complete the job. A little bit of activator. Just hold it in position. Then when it's set, a few seconds, I'll cut it clean. I think that does enhance the look of the wing. I don't know if it adds any more strength, but it certainly enhances it. Next thing I need to look at is the skids that go onto the end tips. I understand that for full-scale replicas of Fokker DR1s, they use hickory axe handles. Helps in protecting the wingtips, but also helps the ground crews for manoeuvring the planes around, because apparently they are quite notoriously difficult to handle on the ground. So I know that's the case. I'm going to try and prep for it, but I'm not going to put scale ones in. They're going to need to be functional, but I'll try and make them as attractive as possible. We'll talk about some ideas in a moment. As you can see here, I've put the bottom wing in position, and let's have a little look at these wing tips. So if we zoom in a bit, having looked at a few examples of how people have produced the wing skids, and the wing skid basically it's about, well, that sort of length and about a little bit narrower than that perhaps, but those sort of dimensions, and they seem to be anchored here and here. But I was looking at a chap who'd, over a long series of very, very detailed building series on building a very accurate scale model of the Fokker DR1, he used scale blocks here, one here and one here, and there's a pivot point here and a fixing point here. And in the sort of final installment, he notes that once again, he's having to cut off the covering to attend to broken fixing points here. And he said that when he reinforced the blocks in these positions, far from solving the problem, it just created a second one, which was that the bolts that were driven into these blocks simply snapped. So I think the solution may actually lie in having some spring, using some spring steel or piano wire, and having that, so that will have some flex in it. And I think the problem with the design as it is in the scale model is that there's no flexibility. It's okay if it hits and the impact is straight up and down, but if there's any side hit or side pressure, it's either ripping the blocks out or it's smashing the screws off. If that was a piano wire here, skid, it would have some spring in it. And I think I need to work out some way of attaching a piano wire skid that I might then cloak in wood to make it more like the prototype, and attach it to a plywood plate that I'll then epoxy onto this end tip. I think that's a video in its own right, so I think perhaps it's time to stop now. Thank you for sticking with me if you've done so. Even if you've just popped in for a little bit, that's fine, although you probably wouldn't be listening to this part. But if you've watched it, please give it a thumbs up. It helps spread the algorithm. That, I hope you'll agree, was worth the effort. It's made a big difference to the appearance of the wing, and it certainly will do when it's covered. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next instalment, whenever that might be. Bye now.